Hey guys, it's the Black Evangelical Tim O'Neill with our third episode of the podcast, coming live and vocal with you guys. Thank you for joining us once again. If you want to continue our conversation, check us out on our email, blackevangelical@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Black Evangelical on Instagram, Black Evangelical on Twitter. Come touch base with us, man. If you notice anything about, and ladies, if you notice anything about our podcast, we want to talk about things that are going around that, other people aren't talking as much about, in the church, in politics. This is all coming from a biblical perspective and from experience. Just want to provide you maybe just a little bit of insight. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, awesome. Tell us why it doesn't, okay? But, just to shoot the breeze, if you would, or cut the fat if my dad doesn't mind me using any of his little slogans or catchphrases. I was touching base with one of my close friends over, I think it's probably last week, and she's been working over at a particular agency that she's employed at for probably about close to 15 years. And she works over in I think they call it a multi-generational workforce, where they have the millennials, they have the Generation Z, I think that is millennial, maybe some Xers, and then, I think they have some of the greatest generation as well, they call. But she's more on the older side. She's a baby boomer. And she went back to get her degree because she saw that, there's a void, if you would, in the workforce, and you want to make sure she was still competitive in her employment. So, she spent the time, got her degree. I think it was in psychology. That's one of the fields that her place is at. They really promote that. I think got her degree in psychology and maybe a minor in business. And so, as if anything here in the States, unless you get any kind of scholarship or tuition reimbursement, that's going to be on your own head. I think the employer talked about some kind of college tuition reimbursement, but then they scrapped it. All this, I believe, while she was getting her degree. Good news is she got her degree, got a bachelor's, got it in a record time, and was looking for employment. Well, really, an upgrade, if you would, promotion over at this agency that she's working at. And I know everything is a little bit of a bet of an investment, if you would. And so, I was on board for it. But I was also skeptical because in the back of my mind, I was like, you can never trust anybody. You never know what's going to happen. But she was looking for a position, and they never gave the promotion. So there they are with this debt and a desire to do something, but no promotion. Then I just want to deal with, and it's been about, let me see, 5 years maybe? Let me think. Yeah, about 5 years. I just want to deal with this topic for today. What do you do when you're employed and you never receive the promotion? What do you do? Especially as a Christian. What do you do when you're employed somewhere and you don't receive the promotion? In this case, the individual I'm dealing with doesn't really want to seek employment somewhere else. They're later in their years in life. And I know you can always say, oh, man, you should have made your decision. Yeah, you can say whatever you want to say, but there's multiple reasons why certain people don't want to give up their position, their experience, their tenure, the time they put in different positions. What do you do when you're saddled with it? You can always go in the younger route and say, oh, well, go check somewhere else out because, you're more employable here and there, whatever. Well, okay. But what if you want to stick on that particular route? What if you want to remain on that particular highway? What do you do? What do you do? Do you give up? Do you run away and cry? Do you go and ask, oh God, why? I was reading a different article, and I love doing that. This one individual was talking about how we do work in multi-generational settings, and employers need to make sure they don't cater towards one particular generational group over the other. Even though for Generation Z or millennials or natives at technology, you don't want to cater towards completely towards natives because you lose the intuition of business that comes through the older generation, the baby boomers and the greatest generation. So you need to have a healthy mix. You need to make sure that you value your employer's experience, and whether it be old or young. Whether it be old or young, you need to value it. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, because I'm going to get older one of these days. What if I'm thinking about a promotion, and it seems like, and remember, I'm coming from a biblical perspective, and I don't want to move anywhere. I've been living in this particular community for X amount of years, having a family. I've reinvested in the company, giving them about 15, 20 years, which is a rarity nowadays. And they make a promise towards me, or if they don't make an outward promise, they make it known that we'll take care of you. But then they don't take care of you. My simple answer to you, if you would, and I know people don't like it because it can be very vague, is to trust in God. Because you can, and I've been through this. You can get mad at your employer, go set out all kinds of applications on Indeed.com, Monster.com, go to the government, apply on the government's websites for positions, and nothing happens. What do you do? What do you do when all else fails and nothing seems to work? You can keep on hitting the grind. I always recommend that you do hit the grind. You do grind it out. Do your best to bring your applications, your strategy of your importance to people of importance, to different sites, different apps. I recommend that you do that. But there's also a hidden thing that we as Christians have that others don't have. Trust in God. If you trust in God, He will make a way for you. No matter how it looks, He will make a way for you. But you have to qualify. See, usually whenever I hear some people talk about certain things that God will do for people, they make it seem like He promotes people who are not qualified for a position. Like the person, they're completely underqualified, have no qualifications at all, but God likes them, so He puts them in a position. Most of the cases, that does not happen. What God does, He will prepare you in some way, shape, or form or fashion for whatever particular position or business or relationship, whatever you have a desire for. And He sees that you qualify for that, and He will open up doors so that you can walk through those doors. So you as a Christian, me as a Christian, we have an opportunity that others do not have. God will make ways for you. There's a man I was thinking about when I was reporting this podcast. He's known all over the world to Muslims and Christians and Jews. And in his life, he was offered an opportunity. And in his particular time, it was in his middle years or his retirement years. To us, it's basically when you're about to leave. He's about 75 years old. And he was offered an opportunity to leave his current position to go do another position. So he was instructed to take he and his family across the desert to another position. And all he had was his trust in God. Yes, he had money, like most of us do. You have a little bit of pocket change. But that's uprooting your family. That's uprooting your system. That's uprooting your way of thinking. What do? All he had was his simple trust in God. And whenever you deal with things of a biblical nature, dealing with the Bible, you have to operate in faith. Faith is acting upon what God has said to you. And you operate in faith. And whenever you operate in faith, you use common sense. You evaluate the situation. Do I have resources? Because most of the time, whenever you want to do something and you believe it's in line with what we would call God's will, God will give you X amount of resources to do certain things. and then you act. That means you do. That means you move. That means you read. That means you operate. That means you continue. And you don't use foolishness. You make a decision. When I say trust in God, I mean that you plead your case to the Lord. Dear Heavenly Father, I'm working at X amount of position, and I desire to be promoted. Whether it be a promotion in job, whether it be a promotion in finances, whether it be more comfortability, whether it be better health care, whether it be whatever it is, you make that a request to God and say, Dear Heavenly Father, you know my situation. I'm doing my job. I'm not slacking. I have my schedule. I'm doing what you desire. I'm doing what's in my heart. I ask you to open up a door for me. My bills are coming due. I need more resources. I ask you to open up a door for me. Help me to do what I can do. But I ask you to make a way for me. In Jesus' name. Now, in my experience, I've seen that work. And I know that'll work in my friend's experience that I talked about earlier in the episode. Well, I gotta get out of here, guys. That was a short little podcast for Black Evangelical. If you want to follow us on Twitter, go ahead, join us for a conversation, the Black Evangelical. Black Evangelical on Instagram. And I think here's Twitter. I don't know if we're going to do YouTube, but we're just going to do those little short things. You're going to check us out, guys. We're planning to open up a Patreon page. Check us out in the future, guys. And we hope to see you when we see you. You take care. Peace.